Steve, my friend.
Chris, my friend.
Here we are again.
Once again.
Oh, man. You know what? The funny thing is that this morning, like every time, okay, I have to explain. Every time we record a podcast episode, we always meet for breakfast at that one iconic place.
It is the opposite of iconic.
We keep going at the same place.
And it's not great.
I know.
We go, and I remember after a few times you said, hey, maybe we should think about going somewhere like delicious and nutritious. And I was like, no, this is our thing.
I know. And this morning, what happened?
Well, we rolled up and there was a notice. I pulled the door and it didn't move. And then there was a notice that just said they didn't pay their rent.
Oh, man.
Failure to pay rent.
That was funny.
The landlord locked our breakfast place.
I got my daughter dropped me off, and I saw you like standing up by the door by yourself.
Sad and kind of confused.
I was like, oh.
Yeah.
They shut down the restaurant.
It happened. We kind of knew it was going to happen.
I was expecting it shut down at some point.
You could kind of feel it.
You know, when a restaurant is a breakfast place in the morning and the Mexican shack at night, you know something is wrong.
They were in their last ditch efforts there. So we found a new place.
Yeah.
It was good.
And to be clear, I'm not saying it was a fail because it was a Mexican joint at night per se.
No.
I'm saying, two different types of food, two different types of
It's definitely not what you want to do in your very, very breakfast themed place.
Yeah.
Suddenly be making it a different style.
Just so you know, nothing against Mexicans.
Oh, who was watching that? It was like, that guy hates Mexicans.
I don't know. These days, everyone is sensitive. I don't know.
Man,
everyone is sensitive about stuff.
That's a leap. If you think Chris hates Mexicans,
hey, better be safe. Eh?
Yeah, that's good. Thanks for covering your bases there. I love all nationalities.
Yes. So with that said,
good.
Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're not already. Make sure you leave a comment, a question. You give your feedback, positive feedback, of course.
Even in Spanish.
Even in Spanish. You're more than welcome to do so. And by the way, I'm Arab on one side and native on the other side. So, I'm pretty mixed up.
And you have a funny accent.
I have a funny Alabama accent.
You can't even say Alabama right. Every time you say that, you ruin it.
That's the fun of it.
Can't say the name of your hometown.
Oh, man. So, what are we talking about today, Steve?
Today's, often as we're doing these other episodes, I've noticed that one of the things people get hung up a little bit on in the comments, and I did when I was first starting, is the idea when we start rambling on about busing and subgroups and all that stuff. So to me, there might be a little 15-minute conversation in busing and subgroups as you understand them and as I understand them.
Yes.
And let's see if we can untangle that, because I'm still trying to figure it out myself. So I imagine at this point, if you're just commencing your journey, that could be somewhere you get hung up on because everybody talks about it.
And it could be complicated.
It can be complicated.
But simple also.
It is complicated, but simple also. Mm-hmm. So I guess, like that to me, let's put a few minutes into, but I guess busing, subgroups, og sends, these are all things that are doing similar-ish things.
Yes, for sure.
Professor, walk through those three concepts real quick.
Okay, so the first one being?
I would say in my mind, because busing and subgroups are kind of the same.
Yes.
You're busing to a subgroup.
Yes.
So how do you...
in most DAWs, we're talking about aux channels.
Correct.
Like
but
in Pro Tools,
aux sends.
Yes, there's that. There's grouping, but there's also send effects. So in Cubase, they are separated.
So maybe we say busing and subgroups are just groups. You're grouping tracks or channels to a location.
Exactly. That's what makes it easy in Cubase because they are named accordingly.
Okay.
Okay, so the group channel is a busing group channel basically, and the effects channel is going to be specifically for send effects.
Okay, so let's just take the first idea.
Sure.
First idea being you're putting all your tracks and channels on a bus. They're all getting on the same school bus.
Yes.
And going to the same location.
Yes.
So, prime example being
drums.
Drums. Yeah, great. So drums. So you make a decision if you've got 12 drum channels.
Yeah, kick, snare, bottom snare, whatever.
Hat, tom, overhead, rim, You've got X number of channels, and you then decide you want to send them all to one place
Yeah.
So that you can fight with them all at once.
Exactly.
In my mind, that's kind of how I look at it.
Yeah, you process them or you make them sound better from that same subgroup channel.
And that's different than, so initially you've got a snare drum and you want to fight with it. You know, that snare drum needs this kind of EQ and I want to compress it a bit and I want to do these things and stuff. So you've got your plugins going on your snare and then everything you've done to that snare is sitting there. And then you go on to your Tom 1 and you do all these things to your Tom 1 and your Tom 2. Now you're taking all of those things and throwing them into one basket that then you can tweak them all at once.
Yep.
For example, what's a common tweakable on your, once they all get on the bus and travel, what then would you do to that group of drums typically?
Of drums, a compressor is going to be something good, just like to glue things together, especially for the drum sound, you know, making sure the, like the kick, the snare,
what does glue
is,
things together mean, you audio professional?
I would say that's a term we use all the time.
Yes, what does it mean?
You know? While grouping all the stuff together, you add a compressor. The compressor is kind of gonna, it's gonna add movement. That's how I explain it.
Sure.
It's about movement.
Sure.
It's about, if I remove the word glue, I'm gonna replace it by keeping things moving together.
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah, that's good.
What about you? How would you describe?
That's a hard.
It's hard.
We say it so often that I don't know if I've ever stopped to talk about it like this.
We say it so easily.
We're both
also
a bit stumped. To me, it's making them all sound like they are in the same family.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
And we do it like a lot of times. You'll have off topic a little bit, off the exact topic, but you'll have the guitars recorded on Tuesday and your singer was recorded on Thursday and your drums were recorded 2 weeks ago and your bass, and then you want to glue them all together to make them sound like they all happened at once. And so a lot of times big effects, and we'll probably get down to the master bus at some point today, but those big moves, and same with drums. You've got a different mic on the tom than on the snare, right? And so naturally they're going to sound a bit unrelated. As if you were then standing in the room with the drum kit, you would hear it with just your 2 ears all coming at you.
Yeah.
Where you've got 12 things and 12 mics, now you've got to kind of reassemble them into a drum kit.
Yeah.
Right? And so that to me is where glue. So then you start photoshopping the whole image to make it sound like it's
okay. But cohesive. I was talking about gluing according to compression on that bus, on that instrument bus. So that was my question to you.
But then does that not do the same thing? 12 mics are all reacting differently, and as soon as they all start moving together with the compressor, now you're putting them into the same family.
This is where I get the glue.
Good.
Per se.
Okay.
Or the movement, because you were moving all along as you were explaining it.
I
so
do
that's
that.
why,
It's my natural flow.
So there you go.
That's what I...
Because just by redirecting everything in the same instrument bus, it's not going to add that glue unless you start processing that.
Correct. And I guess that's what I'm saying. Yeah. Okay. As you start photoshopping.
Yes. Okay. I like that.
That whole, all these separate images together, it looks like they were all in the same room at once.
Yes.
Visually, right? Okay. So compression is a big one. EQ is another one.
Of course.
Once it's all together in the room now, what do you want that whole room to sound like? And it's amazing as you work with individual tracks, a snare, a kick and a snare and a hi-hat and a tom and whatever, you're making decisions on those sounds, sometimes soloed. But even if not soloed, your mind is still focused on what you're listening to. So if I'm EQing a snare, I can't help but think in my head, ooh, a snare, as I EQ it. And you forget about some of the other kids in that room.
Exactly.
When you then go down to that new subgroup or bus or group, now you're starting to think as a whole.
Yes.
Which for me instantly makes my brain zoom out.
Of course.
Right? Which is cool. So then once I start affecting the subgroup or the group or the bus channel or whatever you want to call it, this family room where everybody's been bussed to, do you often go back up and start messing with things again? Because I often do.
Yeah, I do too, for sure. But the question is, where's your starting point? Do you start by messing around with the individual tracks, or you mess around with the group channel first?
For me,
now we're talking about top-down mixing at this point.
For me, my template has some things on it.
Yeah.
And I know when I open my template, all my drums are already going to that place.
Same here.
And there's things there that I know them well enough that I know what I'm hearing.
Yes.
So as I push the kick, I know what's happening down there without even looking. because it just sits
Yeah.
static. And so it's part of the sound of the drums.
Yeah.
And then there's things that are bypassed, quite a few. So I go, oh, this song or this drum kit needs to be a bit more trashy,
Yeah.
or whatever. I know what's there. As soon as all I have to do is unbypass it. I don't even have to look. I just unbypass it and then go
Yeah.
back up and start working.
Totally.
Right. So the answer is yes and yes. They're both
Yes and yes is good.
They're both always working together.
I'm good with that. I'm good with that. So we have the main group channel, whereas the cumulative of a bunch of tracks from the same family, like drums.
Yes.
Okay, so that is one thing we can do with a group channel track. Okay, inside of that group, there's also other groups we can create, and this is where it can be a bit more confusing, and a bit more in depth. So if we stay on the drum thing,
Sure.
Okay, if I have a left and right overhead tracks, I group them
Always.
also on a
Always.
stereo channel.
Yep.
Same for rooms.
Yep.
If I have more than one room track,
Yes.
they're going to be grouped also on a stereo group channel. Same for toms and floors. All the
Same.
toms, all grouped.
Same.
A bunch of snares.
I have
all
one. Yeah,
grouped.
I have one called live snares and
Yeah.
one called trigger snares.
Yeah. I did that for kicks also, but
Yeah.
only like for the recorded kicks.
Yep.
And
Same.
all of my sample kicks went straight to the
Yes.
main drum group. I changed that around recently, but that's the beauty about busing.
It's fun
It's fun, and you change things around as you go.
as you go.
So
I
you
am
might something that might work for years, you might change from now on. Try something else, and I like this one better.
or for one project.
Or for one project.
That's a lot of times that happens.
Yes.
I'll go, man, my kicks. I want to take all my kicks in this project and put them in kind of a slightly different room
Yes.
than the rest of the kit. I do that a lot. I
Yeah.
want them to be a little more roomy or a little longer
Yeah.
or whatever. And so as soon as you start breaking things off, so now you've got things being bussed to buses, and that's where one gets tangled up.
Mm-hmm.
I know that I did initially, and it's one of those things you just do it. You do it for a bit, and then you realize you think that way. So now I go, man, all these snares sound great, but it would be cool if all these snares could do this, right? And so I'll immediately just make a little group and just send everything to that, and then that gets sent down to the drum bus that
Exactly,
we were
yes.
talking about a minute ago,
Yes.
right? So, and sometimes that, to my question a minute ago, sometimes that's how I work backwards. I'll get my drum bus going, and I'll go, but I want all my snares to be a little more whatever.
Mm-hmm.
They're all too transient, or I want them to be more transient. So I'll just take all the snares, send them to it, and I'll just make a transient bus or whatever,
Yeah.
right? So sometimes I'll make a bus for a purpose, right? So
And the purpose can only to have the freedom to level out
that's it.
the snare and the kick.
And then a lot
whatever.
of times it's just a volume move.
That's it.
A lot of times.
But that can also be achieved by a VCA fader
correct. Oh,
that I used to work
I
a lot
stopped.
with, but I stopped doing it in the
stopped.
past maybe, a year or so.
I haven't done VCAs in a few years
Yeah.
now because the bus is faster.
It's faster, and it gives you the option of on that
Yeah.
snare drum, like instead on top of bring that snare sound down.
Yeah.
Let's say I want to make it brighter.
Yes.
You know,
And up and down oftentimes is achieved with other things for me, right?
Yeah.
So instead of bringing it down, I make it less bright, which then, or something,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so that's, or I want it to come up in volume and I'll just add a little 8K. And now it's done a different thing than just being louder on the meters,
Mm-hmm.
right? So now we've got a drum kit with kick buses, snare buses, tom buses,
Yeah.
overhead buses that are all then going down to the drum bus.
yes.
The other thing I would impart at this point in our conversation that I have learned through many years of erroring and trialing,
Or many weeks.
and in my case,
Yeah. Let's make
weeks.
it clear.
Let's be honest. I've
Come
only
on.
been doing this for a couple of weeks. I've been busy though.
I know.
I've been mixing up a storm.
Full weeks, man.
I've been reading a lot. Is that in something like drums, bypassing the drum bus is a really powerful tool, right? So, for example, kicks. Many times my kicks don't go to my drum bus. My kicks go all the way down to the end. A lot of times.
Interesting.
A lot of times.
Why is that?
Because I want my kick louder and I don't want my whole drum thing doing this. Every time there's a kick happens, I don't want my whole drum sound reacting to that.
Okay.
So a lot of times I'll do that now, and more and more and more. My kick now in my template doesn't go to my drum bus. It goes straight down to my mix. So I can push it as loud as I want and my drums still sound
Okay.
Because to me, especially in modern music, the kick almost is separate from the drums. And sometimes the snare I'll bypass because it's just kick and a snare
You're
are
right.
doing their own thing.
Makes sense.
So sometimes there's a kick snare bus that's separate. So it's
Okay.
right.
You want to make things a bit more complicated and more.
That's right.
Okay,
That's right.
I'll make it. I have 2
I've been at
drum.
this for 2 weeks. Let's go. Bring it.
I have
Solim.
2 drum buses.
Yes.
2 of them.
Yeah.
Okay. Exactly for. I don't do that kind of stuff that you do, but
Because you're talented and
I know what.
experienced.
Let's face it. I know what I'm doing. It's common sense, man.
I don't have to do all your stuff because I'm good.
I'm just listening to you talk about your kick drum going to the mixed bus directly. I'm like, he's going to learn the hard way. Let him, a few more weeks, a few more weeks.
Kids these days. Once he's done this for a couple more weeks.
So I have my main drum bus, but I have my final, I call it the mixed drums. These buses are part of my final instrument buses before I hit my mix bus, basically. So I have the freedom to include all of my my drum effects channels into my main drum bus or my second drum bus, bypassing the main, because I do some parallel processing on the main too, which we can talk about later. But if I wanted to get the kick out of that initial drum channel, I could simply bus it to the second one. And I could have processing on this one, or this one can only be the one for leveling out the whole drum sound. It's at this point, it's up to you.
I like this. This is good. I might have to go look at my template tonight when I get home.
It's only to add one channel.
It's only been a couple weeks. It's good.
You'll
this
get
is the
there.
time to do it.
You'll get there.
This is the time to do it when you're still learning. Not like you've been doing this for 30 years. Still don't know an idea like this. Jeepers. So does your drum bus 1, where my kick would not go, does it go to the second one, or does everything go to both? So your snare just goes to 1.
Yeah.
Drum bus 1.
Yeah.
And then drum bus 1 goes to 2.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
And the initial reason was for to collect effects and stuff.
But in my case, everything goes to the second bus, and I process the second bus.
Okay.
This is where I do my main drum bus processing. It's on the second one. The first one I only do. I actually don't have nothing on that channel.
Just to pick up effects,
to level up to the dry sound, the dry drum sound, and I parallel also. I know. I was waiting for that laugh.
I tried not to. I tried. I'm like, maybe if I just keep staring at him.
I'll serve you that wine later.
It's a red.
It's a red for sure.
Obviously a red. Robust, very robust.
So my parallel processing compression on the drums are from the drum channel 1, basically.
Okay.
And sometimes I decide, do I want to include in that drum bus my reverbs and stuff? Or not. I usually don't. It goes straight into my main drum bus.
Okay.
But some will even take all these effects and have their own, a specific bus for effects only.
Yep.
And
I've experimented with that too.
But that's the cool thing about busing. The thing is, there's not one correct way to do it. It doesn't matter.
I don't imagine any of us would have the same.
I don't think so.
Busing scenario.
No, I agree.
We should do an episode where we just open our templates.
Yeah, and look at them.
Look at them. It'd be pretty fun.
Yeah.
Like looking under the hood.
I'm pretty sure that we probably don't do the same.
No,
for sure.
Nobody.
For
Even
sure.
You watch any educational video and their templates look so different
Yeah.
than mine.
And I think the important thing about talking about this topic is just to understand what a bus channel is.
Yes.
What's the use of it.
Yes.
And just understanding the fact that it doesn't matter what you do with them, in a way that, you have the freedom to play around with that.
Yeah.
You have the freedom to stick around with a kind of setup for years, and then once a sudden you try something else.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
It is fun when you discover some new thing.
Yes.
And you're like, this is me now.
Yeah. I used to
This
work a
goes
lot
forever.
with VCA faders.
Yeah, same.
And now
Zero.
less and less.
I have zero.
You have zero.
I have zero. Yeah, because buses do the same thing. And I don't have to remember another fader.
And you understood that like in the first couple of weeks of working in that.
I know, and I can't remember all these things at once. It's my problem. Why is my stuff so soft? There's a VCA fader from 3 templates ago. I made it really bright so I wouldn't forget about it. But it's still,
Exactly.
You look right past all the bright tracks. Yeah. Okay.
So just to explain to the listeners,
Yeah.
what is a VCA fader if we compare it to a group channel fader.
Good idea.
Okay.
Get you
Without going too
educating.
technical.
In my mind, you just take a bunch of faders and say, now this one fader controls all of them.
As far as the volume goes. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. So that's it. It's
You
just,
can't insert effects,
and
nothing.
Correct. And I think this came from back in the day on big consoles.
Yes.
Right? So you don't want all your drums to move at once. And there was no way to do it the way we're talking about. You couldn't just make new things. So you would say, oh, these faders, and on the console, you'd say, they're now number 3. And so when you move number 3, they all moved at once.
Yes.
And that's so everybody would group all your drums, all your basses, all your guitars, you get like 8 of them. And you'd have those 8 faders, and you could quickly adjust your mix.
Sure.
And so that's where that came from in the physical world. And then now we're so far past that in many ways that, it doesn't make as much sense to me to VCA things in the digital when this busing thing
Makes sense.
makes so much more sense,
Yeah.
right? Okay, so other common examples of bust things for somebody like me who's starting out.
Yep.
Drums is a great one. I've started doing basses now
I do
as
bass.
well because I'm like, I want to add a distortion thing to my bass.
Yeah.
And I want to move all those at once or compress all of them
I
at once.
rarely have only one bass channel.
Lots of
Depends.
parallel.
And lots of parallel,
Yeah, that's what I said.
which is on special today at One and Beyond, by the way.
Wine store. That never goes on special. No, it's too good.
It's too good.
And the other thing, if you've got, so bass is a good example where you've got drums are different because they're a bunch of mics and a bunch of instruments. Bass, we're talking about one source. So you've got one audio channel that you've now created 4 audio channels out of just in our conversation
Sure.
here. And so that's where busing them all to one thing is really cool because now I get to treat it again as one.
Yeah.
And so I'll immediately go to the bass bus and start EQing it, making it fit my song as soon as I unmute everything, right? And then I want it to be a little louder at the chorus or add a little low end or whatever. So now I just have one channel again, which is really cool for people with very simple thinking processes
Yes.
like me.
Exactly.
Right?
That's perfect.
I'm not managing all this stuff. So then bass, electric guitars. Huge one.
Same.
Huge one.
Same.
And a lot of times for me, electric guitar is, just a great kind of limiter in there is a great one. Or
Yeah.
all my electric guitars sound too bright.
Yeah.
It's the best. This is where I'm like, thank you, jeepers, for bus channels, right? Like just put a little soothe on my whole bus, right? Now my guitars just suddenly sit different, right? Or tape. That's another one that I'll do with buses a lot is tape.
Yeah.
Especially if it's something, like a jazz project or something.
Sure.
I will go and add tape to every bus and just crank them all up, and instantly it sounds like a console, right? So that's a great one in my little world is and then you take all the buses and unite them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So as you get down your world, vocals we talked about a bit in another episode, I think a week or 2 ago.
Yeah.
How they could be bussed and grouped. We'll get to sends in a second. So the final destination then, so you've got a bus for your drums. You do them all at the bottom, right? You have your drum bus, bass bus. Yours all sit at the bottom
start
of your
with
template.
Those. Yeah.
But they all sit physically.
Physically
If
at
you
the
scroll
bottom.
to the bottom, they're all there.
They're all there.
Mine are with each thing.
Yeah.
So all my drums are blue, and then my bass or my drum bus is bright blue. And my basses, of course, are purple because that's what color
Doesn't
basses
make sense.
should
They're
be.
pink, dark pink.
Purple. Pink?
Dark pink.
Pink? Who's playing bass?
I don't play bass, man.
To me, bass players are
No,
like,
I
they're
do, but
purple.
not
They're very
officially.
purple in my mind. They
I
just,
don't know why it ended up pink, but
yeah.
bass players all hate me.
Yeah, you made them pink.
I know.
I don't think I have any pink in my whole template.
At least I, add a bit more darkness to the pink tone, So they are dark pink.
A fierce pink?
Fierce pink.
Calm down, parallel. Parallel my pink.
Close.
Thank you. So, okay. Where was I going with this? Oh, so in my template, I've got drums and then my thing and then basses and then my bass thing and then so on. And then those all get sent to...
The stereo.
In your case, yours goes... In my case, I added one bus that you didn't have, which is a music bus.
Yes, you're right.
So
you're right.
all mine go to my music
Yes.
bus, which doesn't have any singing in it.
Exactly.
That's the vocal bus.
Yeah.
Right? And so then I can do some stuff
Mm-hmm.
there. Again, effects. mood changes, compression is cool. If I've got a singer and they're not quite poking through well enough, I'll just compress all my music a touch more, and then suddenly the singer sits on top, right?
That's pretty cool.
And so I can compress my singer, and then pull the singer up, and now they've come apart a little bit.
Sure.
In one move. Or another one for me is an instrumental track. Just mute the music bus or mute the vocal bus, and now I have an instrumental or whatever.
Which I can do also. I can just mute a vocal.
I know, but my mixes are more complex, and I have way more singing.
So you look more legit.
Yeah, I do. I have lots of background vocals in mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For
this slight jazz thing I'm doing.
for a guy that's been doing that for a couple of weeks.
It's amazing. I sang all the background vocals
of course
after the client left.
Surprise when he gets back.
My Funny Valentine with 27 Steve harmonies.
I would pay to hear that.
All of them auto-tuned well. Okay, so buses now go to the final bus. And that is what we call the mix bus.
Yes.
I've read. You professionals call it the mix bus.
It's
or the
accurate.
master bus.
Mixed bus is pretty, the most common name.
Okay, for my friends, describe what the master bus does.
It's the mixed bus.
Or the mix bus.
Thank you.
What does it do?
It's everything lands into the mix bus. This is the final destination. It's a group channel that, it's the final destination. That's all I have to say. And you can, at this point, you process that channel. I actually process the channel even before mixing anything else, when it comes to compression especially.
So limiting is a huge component of that for me, right? So that's the final stop where you're not turning things red.
Yes, but no, you're not mastering yet.
No, but you still don't want things red.
No, of course.
Right? So that limiter, if nothing else, just lets me know, ooh, you're limiting a lot. Get upstream and calm down. Mm-hmm. Or I can push a little harder into there or whatever, right? So that's a big one for me. It's just having a limiter it's always on my screen.
Okay.
And I can see how hard that thing's working.
And what's your settings on your limiter?
The limity.
Okay. What's your ceiling point?
Honestly, it depends. 0.
Okay,
I'm
limiting
at minus. I'm at what dB below 0.
Okay.
Yeah, and beyond that, I'm not smart enough to deal with all this other. There's all these other acronyms and letters
Doesn't matter
that the smart people know about. Like if mine isn't red, it's good.
I think it's a good starting point.
And I've never met a mastering guy that's like, it's not minus.
No, it's not.
Right? Like just
honestly,
turn it down.
as long as it doesn't go above 0.
Yeah, make it not red.
That's it.
I'm learning though.
I made a video on that.
Agree.
I'll share the link to my video.
You have videos?
I have videos.
Oh, I've heard about those.
You should watch them.
I should. Man. I'm too busy mixing. I'm too busy learning.
Yeah, but learn the right way.
By trial and error. Seems way faster to do it your way.
Dude, you'll save time.
Yeah, a guy that knows
and you get better results.
So let's quickly zip through Augs sends.
Sure.
As we wrap this up.
Yes.
So a different thing.
A different thing. Now we're talking about effects like reverb.
Yes.
Everything that's in parallel processing.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Delays, reverbs, it could be doublers, could be even compression, saturation, everything you want to add running by your main channels.
So for example, I've got a singer and she's singing away and I want to, that's getting bussed to my vocal group.
Yes. So the output of that channel goes into the input of the bus channel.
But at the same time, I want to turn up a send to a reverb.
Yes.
Separate from that.
Yes. So the output of that channel is not going to be affected in this case.
Right.
It's going to send in parallel a signal out to the reverb or whatever processing you want to add to that.
You're kind of just peeling some of it off and sending it somewhere.
Exactly. It goes on the side, gets to another channel, and these two channels now are going to work together.
And they're now going to wherever they go.
Whatever you want to send them,
a few minutes ago's conversation.
Yes.
And so that becomes very, very powerful and fun because, you do start to get to parallel things and you can send things out and you can send your bass out to get distorted a little bit.
Yes. By keeping the same original bass sound.
Correct. And you can have a bunch of those on a channel.
Yes.
Sometimes a bunch.
Yeah.
And then usually that then all gets sent to the group or bus.
Yeah.
From a minute ago.
On my side, I do send them to the, according to the group of instruments they are working with, okay? A lot of people will create an effects channel bus.
I did that for a season.
Okay, where all of those effects channel tracks are going to end up into this bus. You know,
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that.
It's all personal.
You know, it's all
Season
personal.
to taste.
Exactly.
I love it.
And yeah, so that's the difference between these two types of busing channels. Like in Cubase, one is named group channel, the other one is named effects channel. In reality, technically speaking, under the hood, they do the same thing.
I guess at the end of the day, I would say the point of all of this is to experiment and
Yes.
play with it and have fun.
Yes.
And there's no wrong way to do this. Like it won't even let you. It used to be a big feedback problem. I remember back in the day, you could do it wrong, and then your speakers fell off the thing because the cones flew out. Like, and now it's fun to play with this stuff. Like it really is fun.
Okay, I have a quick question for you. Do you work like when you set up your busing, your group bus channels?
Yeah.
Always stereo channels, or does it happen that you use mono channels also?
Oh, I'll always do stereo.
Yeah.
Even if they act as mono.
It doesn't matter.
Because it doesn't matter.
Exactly.
And then, when I put in, because then when I do insert effects, it's not having to convert from mono to stereo.
No,
in Pro
exactly.
Tools land.
Yes.
And then when I play with that, if I pull one out, now it has to ask me, does it want to send it back to mono? So if I just always stay in stereo, it doesn't.
Yeah,
It
same
don't
here.
care. And it's free.
It doesn't cost a lot, man.
It's free these days to make tracks.
All right, so I think that covers it.
I think that covers it-ish.
What's the question of the week?
All right, so this one.
Yes.
This one I got myself into.
Oh,
so
tell me about it.
A couple weeks ago, we did an episode where I, in all my candor, admitted, wrongfully or not, that I have on my template, my vocal tracks, I have auto-tune on the tracks and already unbypassed.
Ready to go.
So auto-tune is on the tracks.
Yeah.
In C chromatic, set to the slowest tuning setting, and it's just sitting there on. And we had one.
Okay,
one
read
guy,
the comment. I want to hear it.
Yeah. This is a guy called Rome, and he or she is awesome because I love this stuff. I love respectful debate about you do left and I do right, and to me that's really fun, and that's kind of why we do this. So the comment from Rome here is, I wish there wasn't a tacit assumption that you have to tune a vocal. I'm not completely against pitch correction, but maybe only tune something if it's bothering you. He brought up Billie Eilish. They're not on pitch at all if you pull them into Melodyne. It obviously hasn't hurt her at all. Fair. That kind of ends the argument. Like, should we just end the episode? Like, what are we going to go against Billie Eilish at this point in my 3-week career?
Well, she's one artist.
She's done all right for herself.
Yeah, pretty good.
And then the final comment was the one that could be right. If you're starting out with autotune before you're even doing Melodyne, that means you're not even listening to the raw vocal.
Oh,
that's a shame in my opinion.
Oh, that's in your face, man.
Yeah, that one is correct, and it stings. It's a valid point.
It's a valid point, I have to say.
And where I didn't elaborate because we move fast and break things in these episodes, and it's not pre-planned or thought out as we go. We just kind of go. And so I guess there is in my mind there was a very obvious, of course, if it doesn't need it, then it doesn't need it, right? And so there's a ton of, for me, like there's some things stylistically I'll just go ugh, right?
Yeah.
If it's I did an album with a 75-year-old jazz guy.
Sure.
And it was the coolest thing
last
year. And he's just beautiful 75-year-old vocals and just very standard and beautiful. Obviously, I'm not auto-tuning Jim's voice, right? And if I do have an artist as artistic as a Billie Eilish, I then would react, and typically it's something I've recorded anyway. So before I even get to it, I know I have listened to the vocal. If I don't know the artist and I'm just popping up to mix, it's on like compression for me. And it's so slow that it doesn't sound like tuning. And for me, it is for the long notes. And to me, that's where tuning just bothers my mind. If somebody's singing a long note and it starts to do a thing as they run out of air, I'll let auto-tune just bring that to the final exhale, right?
Sure.
And to me, and then if it bothers me, I'll take it off. But I don't know. Do you have auto?
I don't. I rarely use automatic pitch correction. I do everything manually, even long notes.
Yep.
But I'm so used to it.
Yeah.
I'm so fast that it doesn't take me a long time. I'm just like, it's a habit.
Yep.
So for me, I'd rather have it taken care of right away.
Yep.
Even while I record.
Yep.
Like we talked about that,
Yeah.
on the another podcast.
Yeah.
If you didn't listen to this one, go listen to it right now.
Yeah.
But don't miss it out. It's awesome.
It's brilliant.
Yeah, but that's my way of working. But you're not the only one that I met.
Yeah.
That is, Auto-Tune, the plugin exists for a reason.
Yeah.
And it's been around for years, decades actually at
Yeah.
this point. And it still works pretty well, and people love it. And
Yes.
I don't blame you.
And if I hear auto-tune, then it's wrong. And
Yes.
I will spend hours and hours and hours in Melodyne, always.
Yeah.
It is the most time-consuming part of a mix for me, is to pull things into Melodyne and just let it go. And if I hear a little thing, I'll then I'll go back and listen again, and go back and listen
Yes.
again, and then I'll watch TV and listen again.
Yeah.
And then even to the final, like, version 7 of the mix, I'm still in Melodyne, like, that one little
Yes.
thing, right? And so yeah, I am a manual tune aholic.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, we talked about
like
that, yeah.
crazy. But there are some things that are just obviously need to be fixed.
Yes.
And so that's where I'll let it go so slow. that
And
it gets
for
it.
me, when it comes
Yes.
to back vocals,
Let it rip.
like for me,
Let
it's
it
like I don't want to put a lot of work
No.
into it. I don't want to like go in manual
Yeah.
pitch correcting mode, go crazy like I do on lead vocals.
Yes.
The lead vocal is like one of the most important
Yes.
element on the mix. Okay,
Yes.
not a back vocal. Okay, not a bunch of stacked back vocals either. All right, so plugins like pitch correcting plugins, for that matter, are awesome.
Yes.
in my book.
And the last thing I would say is I have very, very, very rarely met in my 3 weeks of doing this a singer that doesn't want to be tuned, right?
They all want to be tuned.
And so for me,
98% of them.
and 98% of the 98% have spent their entire life now listening to auto-tune.
Listen, I've, like yourself, like in the past 3 weeks,
Yeah.
you did record a lot of
Yeah, a lot.
artists,
Yeah.
So I did that a lot,
Yeah.
standing after a recording take, I'm with the singer, listening to the parts, they're recording. They all ask the same thing. Are you going to fix that, eh?
Yeah.
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 Make sure you fix this.
Yeah.
Yes, I will.
And
I'll take care of it.
Everybody's used to tuning and compression,
Yes.
and that's just part of the sound of what they hear every day.
And for me, when I tune, the approach I take when tuning a vocal, it's all about distractions. If like a note that is off pitch is a distraction to the whole song,
Yes.
it needs to be fixed.
Yes.
Okay. And this is where we talked about that before, about like sometimes, a note can be just off pitch, but the feel is so good.
Oh, that's my favorite thing.
So it's not a distraction in this
Yes,
case, because
yes.
the feel will overcome what distraction
Yes.
is at this point, know? So, and that will be the main event.
Yep.
In that case, like, I might break this.
Yeah.
I don't want to
Yeah.
risk breaking it.
Yeah.
And sometimes you do make the correction. It's like,
Yeah.
So even by doing pitch correction, I don't like
Yeah.
sync everything to grid,
Correct.
It's like, I just go by ear, making
Never.
sure that. So,
Yep. Yeah. The right answer is there's no right answer.
I don't think there is.
I don't think there
I don't
is.
think it makes you a non-professional.
Thank you. Thank you.
3-week producer.
Thank you.
Even if
'Cause I
you
like
use
to-
auto-tune,
If I use auto-tune on really
I
long
think
notes very slowly and gently,
that's personal
okay.
choice, man.
Thank you.
The end result is what.
Thank you.
is what counts in this case.
that's right.
So you have my blessing.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor.
If that means anything.
It does. Oh, it does. You have your own website.